this website is amazing. Wow, this is amazing. Wait, aren't you Emille Mendoza?
Yes, I am. Always engaging with your audience.
Yeah.
I think that's the recipe of growing your audience. And I thought, wait a minute, this might be a good business opportunity. If you love what you're doing, everything else will happen naturally.
Welcome to the Come Up Starter Kit, guys. This show is all about taking your career from 0 to 100 real quick. If you are lost, confused, or just plain stuck, I'm here to help. Now, who am I? I'm Shanka Pillai, your soon-to-be favourite career coach. With over 7 years experience in the recruitment game, there's nothing I haven't seen, and I help people just like you land that dream job. In each episode, we'll speak to one of my friends who's done something a little bit different in their career. We'll go along the journey and understand what they've done that's made them so successful. Along the way, I'll give you tips and tricks to help you with your own very come up. Let's get it. Welcome to the Come Up Starter Kit, guys. My name is Shanka and I have a very special guest with me, Emille Mendoza, who is the founder of Boracay Skins. Now guys, she is an e-com superstar. Let's get to know her a little bit more. So Emille, tell me a little bit about Boracay Skin.
Well, Boracay Skin is a beauty brand that I started in 2015 and it's based on coconut oil.
Yeah.
So we predominantly sell online and we have a range of 9 products now.
Okay,
and
wow.
we sell globally.
Nice. So you're now operating here in Australia and the States, right?
Yes, correct.
Right, okay. And so tell me, what does a day in a life look like for you?
A lot of emails,
Right.
checking social media channels, checking on my team, but also any special projects that we have. So whether it's like refreshing the website, any photo shoots I have,
Right.
or even doing an interview like this today.
Okay, very cool. And now, for people that want to know, what was it like when you first started off with 0 Instagram followers to growing it to now how many?
Ooh, we have over 70,000 followers on Instagram alone.
And how hard was that to grow?
It was pretty hard. It is a competitive space,
Yeah.
but I think just being consistent with your marketing
Right.
and always engaging with your audience,
Yeah.
I think that's the recipe of growing your audience.
Now, you started this business as a side hustle. How much did you make in the month when you took it to a full-time business?
Yeah, so it was starting to be more of like a 5-figure thing per month.
Right.
And then eventually we're doing 6-figure months now. So it's worth 7 figures now.
Oh wow, so that's huge. Now, how does that make you feel from starting from a baby to now growing this business into a huge now business?
It's so funny because I had a diary where I'd write my financial goals and I think I only aimed for like 1,000 per month.
Yeah, right.
Just to try and like, I don't think I'll get that many sales, but to even see that much, revenue is just crazy.
How important is writing goals to you?
It's so important. I think it holds you accountable as well. So if you know you're getting off track, there's something you can fall back on.
Yeah.
And also, once you tick it off, it's the best feeling.
Yeah.
And then you can go into your next goal.
How important was marketing to you all in all?
Marketing is probably the most important thing, especially for a small business.
Yeah.
I think that, there's a lot of products out there, the beauty world is huge. And for you to stand out, your marketing has to be quite, on point. Social media marketing has been so important to us. We use things like influencer marketing and making sure our feed is cohesive and is really on brand. I think that's what makes you stand out as a brand because there's so many Instagram accounts out there, but you got to have an Instagram account that people will get value from.
Okay, cool. All right, guys, what we're going to do is now jump to the next segment where we're going to know Emille a little bit more. So Emille, tell me, how would you sum your life up in 60 seconds or less?
When I was a little girl, I always wanted to have my own business.
Yeah.
And my brother and I would role play and I would have like a cash register and I'd sell my fake vegetables and fruits to him.
Yeah.
So it was something I always wanted to do. And it even carried with me when I was in high school. So I did business related subjects.
Right.
And so when I got to university, I actually did an entrepreneurship degree. But when I got to the end of my degree, I didn't know what sort of business I wanted to have. So I thought I'd just take a step back from it. And I loved traveling so much, so I thought, all right, I'll just be a flight attendant. And I actually did that for 5 years. And during this time is when I found out my business opportunity. When I was flying, I would always get such dry skin just from being on the plane all the time.
Yeah.
And so I was using coconut oil on my body just to like nourish it and hydrate it. And then I began experimenting with other plant-based oils. So I made my own body oil. And I thought, wait a minute, this might be a good business opportunity. And so that's how my brand Boracay Skin was born.
So maybe tell the people a little bit about Boracay. You started off with one product and now you've got a range of products.
Yeah, so Boracay Skin is a beauty brand focusing on the benefits of coconut oil.
Yeah.
It's an e-commerce brand. So we sell most of our products just online. And I started that in 2015, and we sell to a lot of countries, but our main target is Australia and the United States.
For people that might not know what e-commerce is, how would you explain what e-com is?
E-commerce is electronic commerce, that's what it stands for. And it's just basically the process of buying and selling goods and services on the internet.
Yeah.
And so if you go in a store and you want something, you just pick it out, go to the cash register, pay for it, and then you take it home. But with e-commerce, it's the exact same thing, but you're just buying it online.
Yeah.
And so you can just do it from home. It's 24/7, and you can just do it whenever you feel like you want something.
And so tell me, when life was at a air hostess, or when you were working as an air hostess, what was that life like?
It was a lot of living out of my suitcase,
Right.
and living in different hotels all the time.
Right.
And so I didn't have a set routine, but I was working on my business during my layovers and
Yeah.
just whenever I had a spare moment.
And that's because you started off as a side business, right? So, and how hard was that, working a full-time job, but also starting a side business?
I think it was even harder for me because, as I said, if I'm on the plane, I can't work. I think if people, have an office job, they could like work on it on the side, on the down low.
Yeah.
But for me, I could only do it whenever I had a spare moment on the ground. And also I had to carry my laptop everywhere. So my old laptop was quite battered by the end of it.
Yeah, right.
But it was hard, but I was just determined to start it, and I just did it whenever I had a spare chance. I didn't really have a social life for a while.
Okay.
So I just worked throughout that whole period, just, eating, working, sleeping, flying.
Right, okay. And when people always see, e-com people, or people just in business, they always see this overnight success. How long was it when you started to when you were actually able to take it into a full-time job?
So it actually took me around 3 years.
Okay.
So it was a side hustle for a long time,
Right.
For e-commerce standards. And so I was just making side hustle revenue.
Right.
And so the turning point for me was when my airline offered a career break. And the career break was basically 12 months leave without pay. And you can go pursue anything else. So you could go study, you could volunteer. And in my case, I wanted to pursue my business. But I still was like a bit hesitant of whether I wanted to do it full time. And I just felt like maybe we weren't hitting the revenue targets that I thought we needed for me to go full time.
Right.
And so I thought, I'll just go traveling for a bit. Why not? I bought a one-way ticket.
Right.
And I traveled, and I think that allowed me just to gain clarity in my life in general, because
Right.
I think once you remove yourself from an environment where it's such a routine, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
If you remove yourself from that and experience a different environment, I think you start to think about your life more in general, like what do you actually want to do?
Yeah.
And also you just think about how big the world is, and you realize that, there's a lot of opportunity out there. And so when I got back at the end of my trip, when I ran out of money, I thought, all right, I need to take this seriously. If I want this to be a full-time thing,
Yeah.
I need to give it my all. And not that I wasn't doing it before, but it just gave me, that moment where I was like, I need to do this differently.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I set different goals for myself. And eventually I was able to do it as a full-time thing because we hit the revenue targets that we needed.
Right, okay. And so you mentioned about that you sort of went traveling to find yourself. There's a lot of youth or students that are coming onto year 12 and about to finish year 12, but they're not sure what they want to do. What sort of advice would you give them if they are lost?
I mean, it's hard to travel now because of COVID.
Yeah.
That's something I recommend. If you can travel, do it, because I think traveling, it's not just, the sightseeing. It's also just allowing yourself to experience different things and meet people that are outside of your own culture.
Yeah.
And also just experiencing different environments. And I think you can learn a lot about yourself and what you want out of life when you do things like that.
Right.
But if you can't travel, I think just doing anything that interests you. So say if you've been interested in, I don't know, golf.
Yeah.
And golf is something I've actually taken up this year.
Okay.
And so if you want to just, had an interest in it, you haven't tried it out, just try it out.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll find, okay, I don't like doing that. So then you don't do it again. But then you might find out, oh, well, actually, I'm really good at this and I really enjoy it. And then so there might be something there. So I think just, pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone a bit, it will allow you to discover what interests you.
So tell me, what type of student were you at school?
I was a horrible student. Yeah, so I was always falling asleep in class, didn't pay attention. And that's just because learning by textbook wasn't for me. I just learned by doing things. And so I wasn't the best student.
Okay. And then how did you sort of stumble across e-commerce, and how did you know that e-commerce was a sort of business platform that you wanted to use?
So when I started in 2015, I think e-commerce was on the rise at the time. Now it's, everybody knows about it, but I think back then people were still hesitant buying online. And so it was just a platform for me because it was just really easy to set up a website. I had my product, I was hand making it at the time. So I just set up a website, set up a couple of social media channels, and off I went. And it was so easy. It's a low barrier to entry. I think before, people used to think that starting a business like this whole big thing and you needed heaps of money. And I think e-commerce allows people with not a huge budget to actually start a business. So I think it's a great platform.
And when you were looking for sort of information and resource to help you get you started, where did you go towards?
Well, I think you've heard of something called Google. And Google is honestly the best thing. You just need to ask Google literally the right question. So if you ask Google how to start an e-com business, you will find articles about how to start a business. I think back then there weren't many articles about it. And so how I did it was I'd Google, but I'd also look up people that were doing a similar thing and people that I looked up to. So people that were in the e-commerce space. And so I would contact them, and it wasn't always a yes, it was mostly no. And I understand, like, everyone's busy, but the people that did say yes to me, and I had like a 15-20 minute coffee with, they gave me some wisdom that I still haven't forgotten, and it's really stuck with me.
Okay. That's a really good point. So how important is networking just in general, and what sort of advice would you give to people that are struggling to network?
Look, I know networking can be one of those things where people think, oh, do I have to really do it? It's a bit snooty. Networking for me is just making connections. And so just even being surrounded by people that are doing a similar thing, it can really support you and lift you up along your business journey, especially if you're doing it on your own and you don't know anyone in the business world. And so just by going out there and meeting people, so LinkedIn is a great tool. Sliding in the Instagram DMs, sending cold emails, going to in-person events when they're more readily available because of COVID. But I found going to in-person events was the best because having that human connection, it just allowed me to make friendships as well. Yeah,
okay, perfect. And when you were starting the business, a lot of times that people see that overnight success. What were some of the battles that you faced when starting your business?
I think underestimating how hard it was because I thought, because it's e-commerce, oh, this is going to be so easy, but it actually wasn't. And now I know that it takes a lot of work, and it's just being consistent. There's going to be days where you're going to have 0 sales, and that's going to happen a lot, especially in the start of your journey. And so I think something that you need to remember is, like, don't let that discourage you and just keep going. So just trying to remember that it is going to be a hard road, because if it was easy, I think everybody would do it.
So true. And that also leads me to mindset. How important is having a strong mindset and blocking out, all the haters, or just in general, blocking out that negativity?
I think having a clear mindset, you just really do need it. It can be hard because it's really overwhelming, and especially with social media, you compare yourself a lot to what others are doing, and then you think you're not doing good enough. But I think just, as long as you do your best and you know that you're doing 100% of your own effort, and just staying clear in that and not really worrying about what other people are doing. Yeah, definitely. And now you guys are international, or you've been international for some time. You're not only operating here in Australia, but also in the States. How is it trying to manage an international business? Well, having a business in itself is 24/7. And so you just got to remember that, there's also the cultural differences. Even though they're both English-speaking countries, they have their own differences in what they like and what's trending for them, and also just their spending habits. And so you just have to be mindful of what which target audience you're going for, and just like looking into what's trending over there and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, okay. And when it comes to sort of, if people were looking at starting their own e-com business and it was, they wanted to pick a product, you've also spoken about being passionate. How much does that sort of contribute when starting a business?
You have to love what you're doing, otherwise there's no point in doing it. If you're just doing it for the sake of, say, like making money, I think that will tire out very quickly, because it is difficult, and there's going to be days where you feel like you can't solve the problems that you've got in front of you. So if you love what you're doing, everything else will happen naturally.
Yeah, definitely. And when you are facing problems as a solo entrepreneur, who do you look for when it comes for help?
A lot of the time I do rely on my support network. So from all the connections I made from networking, sometimes, most of the time, they've gone through that problem too. And so like we can help each other out. But also it's just you on your own, you have to look within and think, okay, what can I do to solve this problem? And sometimes all you have to do is take a step back and not worry about it for a while. So sometimes it takes me an hour, a week, a month, whatever it is. And by the time I get back to it, my brain's just come up with a solution.
Right.
Yeah.
And now I guess the beauty with e-com, you can be set anywhere in the world. So what does sort of a day in a life look like for you?
A lot of emails. So
Okay.
I get up fairly early. I like to exercise.
Right.
But I'm always constantly answering emails. I also check the social media.
Right.
But if we have projects as well, I check on that. Check on my team. And then sometimes I have in-person meetings. So every day is different. And then today I'm doing an interview. So
Lovely. And so do you get to work anywhere you want? So say if you wanted to pick one day from your house, or you could go anywhere, do you have that flexibility?
So in the beginning I didn't, because I did everything myself.
Okay.
So I was packing the orders, I was actually making the product.
Right.
Now we have a manufacturer and we've got automated processes and we've got a team.
Yeah.
So now it is a bit more flexible, but in the beginning there's a lot of hours put into there.
Yeah.
And you'll be doing a lot of things yourself. So you're wearing a lot of hats.
Okay. And how important was it to create processes and procedures for your business to, I guess, automate everything?
It's important, because otherwise you won't be able to keep up with the demand. It would just take you too long.
Right.
And so it's important to automate all those things too, to allow you the flexibility. Like, okay, I've built it up now. I can take a little step back.
Yeah.
And focus on actually growing the business.
Okay. And for people that might not know what processes and procedures are, how would you explain that?
It's basically just so even as simple as like, how do you send out an order? So we have a process for that.
Right.
And so before it was like, handwriting the label right to the customer and sticking it on manually, and then going all the way to the post office. But now we have a process. So, and that you simplify that process. So a process is anything that, you've got your different things that you have for your business. You just need to simplify those.
Okay. And what's the one thing, I guess, what are the things that you love about being in the e-com space?
I love e-com because I think it's a low barrier to entry. I think anyone can enter that space.
Yeah.
It is competitive these days because of the low barrier. But also with that, there's a big enough market so that everyone can do well.
Yeah.
And so like everyone's shopping online these days, and that was exaggerated by COVID.
Yeah.
And so now even the people that weren't into shopping online love shopping online now because they had no choice. And e-com is great too because it allows you to be creative. Yeah. And so like with your marketing, you can do it any way you want. You can do it digitally, you can do it a traditional way. Yeah. I think there's like so many options out there with e-com, and that's what I love about it. Yeah, definitely. I guess being, a solo entrepreneur as well, there are so many things that you have to learn. So whether it be business or marketing or just accounting as well. Do you like that element? Not all the time, no. As soon as I could, get someone else to do it, I did it, because there's something, I did all of those in the beginning. Yeah. But, there's only so many things I can do, and I know what my strengths are. Yeah. And so for the things that I'm not so good at, I know to, get someone else to do it, because otherwise the business will suffer. Yeah, definitely. And now with, such huge growth in the business, you're starting to hire. What do you look for when you do hire individuals? So what I look for is not necessarily a skill, but more so a trait that I look for in people. Yeah. And that is that they are passionate and they love what they're doing. So whatever industry that they're applying for and the role that they're applying for, if I can see that they genuinely love it, then every other thing will just follow. So any necessary skills they need, it'll just follow with them. If it's just another job for them, it just doesn't quite get there. and they don't perform at their best. So that's what I look for.
All right, guys, let's jump to the next segment where Emille is going to teach us her top 3 tips for starting an e-com business. Networking is essential if you are looking to find your next job. Did you know that 60% of people find their next job via networking? Now, here are my top 3 tips on how to improve your networking skills. Tip number 1, start close to home. You'd be surprised who you have in your own network or your immediate network, such as your friends and family, and just simply putting out the word to them and letting them know that you are now active and looking for an opportunity can provide you with an abundance of fruits that you'd be unaware of. Tip number 2, community groups. Now guys, what do I mean by community groups? There are so many groups on LinkedIn, Facebook, and even websites such as meetup.com. These are where you'll find people who are passionate about the same industries that you are. So make sure to jump and join these groups and connect with like-minded people. Tip number 3, connect with recruiters. Now guys, what you want to try and do is jump on LinkedIn and connect with the recruiters who specialize in the field that you want to try and get into. This is a great opportunity for you to ask them if you can grab them for a coffee and just simply pick their brain on what you can do to try and best stand out.
Hey guys, my name is Emille and I'm here to give you top 3 tips to starting an e-com business. My first tip is get a product. Ensure that your product fits your niche and that you've done your research on your target audience. Also make your packaging great, because that's the thing that people look for these days when they're shopping online. My second tip would be to have a great website. This is where your customers will buy from, so make sure it's easy to use and also make sure there's not too many things going on with your website. Make sure you have professional imagery and that all the colors look great on your website. My third tip would be to start up your social media channels. Even if you've got 0 followers, just start and be consistent. Get on your favorite platform like Instagram or TikTok and start posting videos and really engaging with your target audience. These top 3 tips will help you start a successful e-com business.